Traf-O-Data is one of those forgotten stories in the life of Bill Gates that most people never talk about, yet it carries within it some of the most powerful lessons of failure, risk, resilience, and vision that later shaped the man who went on to build Microsoft. And to truly understand the power of this story, we need to step back into the early 1970s. When computers were not in every household, when they were not even in every office, when they were considered mysterious, gigantic machines that only governments, research labs, and large companies could afford, and it was in this world that a teenage Bill Gates, along with his close friend Paul Allen, decided to try something daring, something that nobody expected. And that was to build a small company called Traf-O-Data. The idea sounds almost too simple today, but in those years it was actually genius. Every city in America struggled to manage traffic flow. Cars piled up on roads, congestion wasted time and fuel, and cities relied on traffic engineers to analyze data collected from the streets. The way they collected it was through special devices placed on roads that counted cars by sensing tire pressure on rubber hoses stretched across the streets. These machines recorded streams of numbers punched into rolls of paper tape, and later human workers had to manually process these paper tapes to figure out how many cars passed, at what time, on which roads, and only then could the city plan where to place traffic lights or how to expand lanes. Slow, expensive, and full of inefficiencies, and here came two young high schoolers, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, who thought, why not automate the whole process? Why not take those long, boring tapes and feed them into a computer that could instantly analyze and spit out the traffic patterns? That idea was Traf-O-Data. And it started with the same youthful energy and curiosity that defined Bill Gates' early life. Bill was still at Lakeside School when he first got exposed to the teletype computer terminal. And he and Paul Allen would stay up all night writing code, exploring how far they could push this new technology. Traf-O-Data was their first real attempt to turn that passion into money. Into a business, into something that proved technology could solve real-world problems. They even brought in another student, Paul Gilbert, who was good at hardware design, to actually build the machine. Paul Gilbert designed a small box with circuits that could read the paper tapes. Bill wrote the software. And together they created a system that promised to revolutionize traffic data analysis. Imagine that, while most kids their age were busy thinking about homework, dates, or college, Bill Gates and Paul Allen were hustling to sell a technology product to city governments, and in those moments you can already see the spark of entrepreneurship that would later dominate the world. They named it Traf-O-Data because that was literally what it did, traffic plus data. Now the real story begins, because while the idea was brilliant, the execution was full of obstacles. First of all, they were kids and nobody took them seriously. City officials were skeptical. Why would they trust important infrastructure analysis to teenagers? On top of that, the hardware often didn't work properly, the machine had bugs, the paper tapes jammed, and sometimes the results weren't accurate. The dream of instantly automating the traffic analysis process quickly collided with the messy reality of technology limitations and business challenges. Gates and Allen tried to pitch their device to traffic departments, they even gave demonstrations, but one after another, their attempts failed. The city of Seattle, their home city, wasn't interested, and neither were other local governments. Some say they managed to sell a few services, maybe earned a little bit of money, but nothing close to a sustainable business. Eventually, Traf-O-Data collapsed, leaving behind a machine that didn't work as intended, a business that had no customers, and a dream that seemed like a total failure. But here's the twist. This failure became the foundation of their later success. Traf-O-Data taught Bill Gates that brilliant ideas alone don't guarantee success. You need timing, you need execution. You need a real market that trusts you, and you need to turn technology into something reliable. He realized that building something nobody wanted, or something that wasn't fully polished, could sink a company before it even started, and yet he didn't stop, he didn't give up. Instead, he absorbed the lessons like a sponge. In later interviews, Gates admitted, "Traf-O-Data was a failure, but it was also the best thing we ever did because it paved the way for Microsoft." How? Because the skills they learned building Traf-O-Data, writing the software, designing the hardware, understanding how to sell, how to pitch, how to think like entrepreneurs, those very skills became the seed that bloomed when they saw the Altair 8800 computer and rushed to write software for it, which then became Microsoft's first breakthrough. Traf-O-Data was a painful reminder that failure is not the opposite of success but rather a part of it, and if you look at Bill Gates' story honestly, without this so-called failure, there would never have been the confidence and experience to build Microsoft. Think about it. Gates was still in his teens when he tasted rejection, when he faced technical breakdowns, when he saw customers turning him away, and instead of shattering his dreams, it hardened his determination. It showed him that you could fall flat. But that didn't mean you were finished. In many ways, Traf-O-Data became his secret weapon, because when the next opportunity came, he knew exactly how to act faster, how to sell smarter, how to build software that actually worked. And while the world often remembers Bill Gates as the co-founder of Microsoft, the billionaire, the philanthropist, the truth is that his entrepreneurial journey began with a flop. Traf-O-Data is that forgotten chapter that proves the greatest innovators don't just succeed, they fail first, they fail fast, and they fail while they are still young enough to learn. To this day, business schools and motivational speakers point to Traf-O-Data as an example of why you should embrace early failures, because they train you for bigger victories. Imagine if Bill Gates had taken that failure as a final defeat. The world of technology might look completely different today. There might have been no Microsoft, no Windows, no personal computers in every office and home. The legacy of Traf-O-Data lives on not in the money it made, but in the lessons it gave. And perhaps the most inspiring part of this story is the courage of two teenagers to even try. Most people at that age wouldn't even dream of building a company, but Gates and Allen did. And that mindset of daring to attempt the impossible is what eventually changed the world. Traf-O-Data may have been a broken machine, a failed business, but it was also the first heartbeat of one of the greatest success stories in human history. And when you think of Bill Gates today, don't just think of the billionaire or the philanthropist. Think of that young boy staring at jammed paper tapes, frustrated but still hopeful, realizing that failure is just another word for practice. That's the essence of Traf-O-Data, a story of failure that was actually the first step to greatness. A reminder to all of us that if we stumble, if our first project collapses, if nobody believes in us, it doesn't mean we stop, it means we learn, we adapt, and we prepare for the day when our vision finally meets the right moment. Traf-O-Data wasn't the end of the road, it was the beginning of a journey that redefined the future of technology. And that is why even though the company itself disappeared into history, its story will always remain alive as the seed of Microsoft, the spark of Bill Gates' empire, and the living proof that failure is the tuition you pay for the education of success.